Now 5:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Clerk Seegers could please call the roll.
You're on mute, sir.
Trustee Anthony.
Present.
Foster.
Good evening.
Graham Hudak.
Good evening.
Clerk Segrist here. Treasurer Slavens.
Diane was here. Looks like she may have stepped out for a second.
All right. Trustee Snyderman.
I am here.
Supervisor Williams.
Good evening. Call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented without change. So moved.
Support.
Roll call vote to support the motion.
Anthony.
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
Graham Hudak.
Yes.
Segrist, yes. Snyderman.
Yes.
And Williams.
Yes. We have a single item on the agenda this evening. It's consider approval to schedule show cause hearings for property subject to dangerous buildings hearings orders.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board, I'm gonna pause my other Zoom meeting. I apologize. Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board open the show cause hearing.
Second.
There's 3 properties that are up. Can we specify which one we're talking about before we proceed?
Absolutely. If it's in terms of background, I'll go ahead and go through that if that's okay. The detail, and it's we have 43 415 Michigan Avenue. It's a dangerous building. First had its first hearing April 12, 2018. At that hearing, it was given 2 options which were to be acted upon by September 18th and October 8th, 2018, respectively. Where the township would have the right to demolish the building. Option 1 timeline expired, as well as option 2 expired in April 2019. When no reconstruction was started, the owner has taken Canton Township to court. No permits have been submitted for review, and no construction has taken place to date. The other properties we're discussing this evening are 880 lots. First building hearing, dangerous building hearing occurred on June 4th, 2019, was to be completed by January 31st, 2020. And also 890 dangerous building hearing, June 4th, 2019, was to be completed by May 31st, also 2020. No permit applications have been submitted or work has been completed on either of the properties or the structure. The car also hit 890 lots. No repair has been initiated after the auto accident. These properties have been nuisances issues for a long time, and the full hearing documents and evidence on behalf of the township is available for review to anybody who may be interested. I thought a chat or Jade Smith joined.
Yeah, so Jade and Rob are both on. If they could be promoted to panelists.
Okay.
And looking at the attendees, it looks like there may be some individuals who are here to speak on the 43415 Michigan Avenue property.
Very good. All right, so I see Jade is now on top. Can we promote them, Michael? Jade.
And I promoted Jade and Rob Kramer.
5128.
Having some technical difficulties right now accessing the board packet. So if somebody else can read the motions instead of me, I would appreciate that. That it's attached as we move forward. And then who is the property owner for the property in question right now?
I see a Nicholas Nunu. I believe and John Harrington is the attorney for the property owner. I see him in there as well. And maybe Mr. Harrington can identify anybody else who might be here on this issue.
Would the supervisor like me to appoint John Harrington as a panelist?
Please.
And I don't actually see the RBA in the board packet. Again, I'm not sure you can read it. But
Hello,
Yeah, hello, Mr. Harrington.
Abraham Nunu, I think he might be using some other family members' Zoom capabilities. It says Nicholas Nunu, but I understand it's Abraham Nunu that might be on the line too, so.
Okay, he's also
could also-
coming in now.
Is there anybody else that you expect, Mr. Harrington?
I think Mr. Nunu's with somebody who's an engineer, and it looks like he's sitting next to Mr. Nunu right there. Mr. Nunu could perhaps adjust your screen a little bit to reflect who's with you. And then, other than that, that's it, Ms. Cole.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then Stephen, do you do or you do not have the full board packet?
I have the full board packet, but I don't see the actual RBA for this meeting in there that Michael wanted us to read. I was confused, so. But if you guys are good, I'm good.
All right, so Mr. Harrington, I guess now would be the appropriate time. Let me go through the summary of why we're here this evening, and then if you could speak on behalf of your Mr. Nunu or Mr. Nunu and the other representative would like to speak. But in summary, there are properties that have failed to meet the requirements and deadlines established by the hearing officer following recent dangerous buildings hearings as prescribed by township ordinance and state law. In light of the failures to comply, the board must take action to set a public hearing at which property owners must be given an opportunity to show cause why the hearing officer orders should not be enforced. The hearings must occur at least 30 days after the meeting, which is this evening, correct, Kristen?
Yes,
At which time the board will set the hearing and notice a date chosen be sent to the property owners. Following the hearings at which both property owners and township staff shall be given the opportunity to speak, the board must decide if the determination of the hearing officer should be carried out as ordered, whether the order is need not be followed, or whether some other appropriate resolutions can be found in the matters in front of us. So, Mr. Harrington, I guess now would be an appropriate time for you to speak on behalf of the property owners at 43415 Michigan Avenue.
Well, thank you very much. There's been a long history with this property, as Ms. Kolb can attest to as well. It's a building that's been used as an apartment complex for many, many decades, going back, we estimate to the early 1950s. Historically, and most recently on this property, there's been litigation that's ensued. There was, in fact, the hearing in front of a dangerous building hearing officer, Joseph Phillips. There was a hearing back on September 27th where deadlines were established as to any remedies that should be taken care of on the property. Our client unfortunately faced some roadblocks in trying to get that accomplished because the property was zoned for something different than use as an apartment. Litigation ensued in the Wayne County Circuit Court and ultimately in the Michigan Court of Appeals, where we tried to establish that the building was in fact grandfathered and used as an apartment. Unfortunately, at least from my client's perspective, this past summer, there was a ruling that was adverse to our client. He was unsuccessful in convincing the Court of Appeals to reverse the ruling of the Wayne County Circuit Court that the property should continue to be used as an apartment building. Since then, I know he's had the property up for sale. He's had numerous individuals interested in renovating the building and renovating the property and trying to use it to save the structure itself. The dangerous portions of the building are being somewhat in the interior. I know there was a finding of asbestos by Mr. Creamer and others in the building department, and that there was a finding that there was open wires and electrical issues and other problems with the building that are on the interior. But it was our client's hope to save the exterior or the structure of the building and try to salvage it, but unfortunately we're unsuccessful in trying to get anything accomplished with the city. And Mr. Nuno's here with his engineer, and he wishes to perhaps make a few comments, but it's our hope that, and part of the problem, of course, has been due to why we're all here doing this Zoom, is because of COVID and getting contractors, getting people out there during this obviously unique time frame because of the COVID restrictions. But it's our hope to perhaps get an extension of 90 days in which we can show the city, or show the township, excuse me, what exactly they hope to do in terms of trying to still save this building, save this property, and use it as for something that is within the zoning, not an apartment building. We have to give up on that hope or this past use, but something that falls within the commercials zoning of the property right now. And in terms of his efforts and hopes, efforts to date and his hopes in the future, I would ask Mr. Nunu to perhaps speak up and address the board and tell us what exactly you've been experiencing and what you hope to accomplish. And Mr. Nunu, I know you're muted right now, so there you go.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honors. I would like to give you history. You know, I got a notice of violations report from the city one day after it was put as a dangerous building. And those violation is, I'm going to read some of them. Change the door, rear storm is missing, replace and caulk the bathroom, the smoke alarm needed. All of them are cosmetic in nature, and they are not a dangerous structure building. And the minute I knew about them, I went to the city, met with Mr. Kramer, and I sent my contractor, because it said you cannot do any repairs unless you have a permit. I sent my contractor there to pull a permit. Then they said it's not zoned properly, or it was illegally converted from a motel to a residential, and we have to go through rezoning, and we went through that process. Even the rezoning, when we went to get the application to rezone it, they said we cannot rezone you because our township, we cannot rezone. This is a grandfather in. It has been here for 50 years. Anyway, so we applied for the rezoning. It was denied exactly what I was told from day one. When I submitted the application to rezone, the rezoning people did not want even to take the applications. They told me it's going to deny it. You are wasting time and money. I said, we have a deadline. We have agreed. This is the deadline. According to the deadline and the documents I got, they accepted to take that application. And they said, we're going to see if we're going to process it. Anyway, they processed it, and we couldn't zone. And that's why we couldn't do any repairs, because even Mr. Kramer himself told me, don't do any repairs, it's a waste of money, and we're going to send you to the demolition hearing, whether you like it or not. It's not zoned properly, even though at the planning department said, this is a grandfather in. 50 years being an apartment, now they said it's a motel. Okay, we look at the motel, when we FOIA the application, there was no history being a motel. Mr. Kramer said there's a split in the property. When we FOIA that thing, there was no split. So we tried every option and we exhausted every remedy possible to get this building up to the code the way they want it, but we cannot do anything without a permit. We tried everything. I got tired from it. I put it for sale. A lot of tenants and buyers came and they went to the city, and every use is not acceptable. So with the pandemic, everything got delayed. We were waiting for the court, which we got the opinion about, I think, a couple of months ago or 40 days ago. And then we got the show cause hearing, and I talked to my real estate guy. He said, we got many people. Nobody can do anything because the city is not allowing anything. So I talked to my contractor. He said, the best thing, let's forget about the apartment, clean the apartment from inside, get it out, make it an office for tax or insurance guy, and move on. I need to preserve the building because in the deposition of Mr. Kramer has pointed that if the building is gone, the property worth nothing. And this is property that I paid for $300,000. You know, it is in the deposition, Mr. Kramer. You said that. This property is a life-saving for me. $300,000 it cost me. And demolishing the property will make me lose a life-saving. That's why I'm trying to save it, enhance it, and figure a solution for it. Maybe I'll keep, if it's a warehouse or storage area or an office, hopefully we can sell it. Therefore, I'm looking for your mercy today, and I pray for it. to give us additional 90 days to get the final touch on this property. And again, I didn't do anything before. It's not I didn't do, I exhausted everything, but I get the blocks every move, every second I do, everything. From day one, I was on Mr. Kramer office, day one. And I went there many, many, many times to the city and exhaust every remedy possible. And we couldn't do anything. It's everything, it's catch-22. You can't do it. Here's the problem, and there's no solution. Here's the problem, no solution. Here's the problem, no solution. Nobody would help. Today, I'm seeking your help. I'm praying for your help and for your mercy. All what I'm asking for additional 90 days so we can, I have an engineer here, a doctor engineer. I had before another professional engineer who was a city official in 3 cities before, and he said, there's no evidence of asbestos, there's no evidence of anything. The building is structurally sound. There's some cosmetic issues, we understand. And by the way, the city, a year earlier for the inspection, this is the compliance report from the city in December 15, 2016. It was approved, everything's fine. And, even the zoning was approved. By the law, 50 year, it's enough to be grandfather in. So again, and I don't want to make it long, please, I'm looking for your mercy. I'm looking for one more extension to get this wrapped up. And I want to let my engineer, Dr. Nidal, to talk about the building, and he respected it.
Wait, Dr. Udall?
This is Ghassan Khalaf. I am a design engineer from GK Consulting, 5644 Middlebelt, Garden City. I'm looking at the inspection report that was done in September 27, 2017. I don't see that major issues if we remove the apartments. So what I'm trying to say here, that anything that related to the apartment will be demoed from inside. So this building will not be as an apartment, will not be sold or promoted to be sold as an apartment. It will be promoted to be sold exactly the same as what's in the zoning ordinance. So it could be office, it could be retail store, whatever that it's permitted under C2 zoning. Most of the comments are related to the apartments, such as GFI outlets, switches, rear storm door. All these could be fixed. All these issues are not major issues. Nothing is make the building dangerous. I check the building myself. I've seen a building worse than that and nothing wrong with them. But this building is, I believe all the fixes are cosmetics, nothing major. And I believe the building could be saved for another business.
Thank you.
I want to add one thing.
Yeah, please, Mr.
If you don't mind. Even the city did not provide an engineer report to say it's dangerous. The building has been there for 3 years. We cannot touch it. We maintain it. We cut the grass every week. We do everything. We didn't see any engineer report from the city say it's dangerous, and no complaints from the neighbors. When we went to the other hearings, all the neighbors came in support of us. They like to see that, some people were living there for 25 years. 25 years, a guy got kicked from there. Again, there was no engineer report and nothing. And also I have my contractor. He went into it and he checked it, and he liked to say something about the building inside.
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Hassan Ayubi. I represent the True Comfort Incorporation company. I went over there. The building from outside is nice, strong. The problem only for inside, we'll move everything. It's going to be easy, not hard, if we get extension. And I like this issue. That's my opinion. I hope you will agree, guys. That's it.
Thank you, Your Honors.
So currently, there's there's nobody occupying the facility today. It's empty. Correct?
And no one's
Correct.
been living there for almost 3 years.
Okay, it is a commercial C2 zoning underneath it.
Yes.
Okay, and all the litigation to date has been efforts to maintain it as an apartment building. As it is not zoned such, it's C2, so now you guys want to convert the building to become something commercial that is qualified in that location.
That's our client's hope and expect. And
So then all my questions relate to all the inside stuff, if you're going to be tearing out walls and redoing wiring or whatever you're going to do to set it up to become something different than what it is today physically, is the structure sound or not? The four walls, are they sound or not?
we believe it is, as were commented by Mr. Nuno and the other gentleman, a lot of the complaints regarding the building as being in need of repair all dealt with the interior in terms of the wiring, in terms of some of the plumbing in there, the electrical wiring, the plumbing. But the exterior of the building, the four walls are all are sound, or they're salvageable in terms of what can be repaired, and tearing down the entire structure is not necessary in order to preserve the building and renovate it and make it so it can be now built to something that can comply with the current C2 zoning.
Okay, then there's also, I can say this because I only got 3 days left on the job, is the aesthetics of the site. There have been other facilities around Canton Township where they've come in and done a first-class job giving the exteriors facelifts and really bringing it up to today's standards and the expectations that the community has. But specifically, and I guess it would be to Rob Kramer, is the structure sound? Is the roof intact? Is it a dry building inside? I guess that's to Rob Kramer. Or Jade, I don't want to.
Rob, you're muted.
You're still muted, Rob. There you go.
Okay, I didn't realize I had to unmute myself. I thought you had the control. And you can rebuild anything. You can rebuild something off a slab. In my opinion, it's not worth rebuilding, but in order for them to rebuild it, they would have to totally rebuild basically the whole thing. They would have to today's code. There's windows in there. I mean, I don't think they'd want the layouts like the apartments and the doors like the apartments. They would have to have full plans. Like they're asking for 90 days. They've done nothing. They've not brought in a proposal or anything. We don't know what's going in. We have no plans. So is 90 days going to be enough? What is the 90 days he's asking for? What does he expect us to wait 90 days for? Plans or permits or to start the building? I mean, they can't do anything without plans and permits, and it has to get approved through zoning first. The building is a mess. I would assume there's probably a lot of rotted wood in the roof by now. It's sat there for 4 years. To me, the pictures in the packet that I provided tell the story. I mean, they can say all they want about how great it was and how nobody, wanted to leave, but I mean, you probably can't even see it, but if you look at the pictures in the packet, it kind of tells what we found when we went in there. It was not livable.
Yeah, Jade, could you do screen share, or is it convenient for you to do screen share? If not, I'll do it. I'll figure out how to do it.
I'll have to pull it up.
Well, let me see if I can do it real quick.
It'll take me a minute.
Let me see if I can do it faster. I'll try. Yeah. Um,
Got it, Pat?
I'm getting there. Looking for the photographs.
Oh.
I'm looking at the supporting documents in the deck.
Pat, I've got it up here. I'm not sure which picture you're looking at that you would like to see, but I do have pictures up here.
Well, just some of the, what Rob is describing as,
And I apologize, I don't think I can turn this
yeah, so well, I can see it. Okay.
during the presentation.
Yeah,
Those last pictures were pictures that were taken just recently.
Yeah, the garbage that's being dumped on the property.
And I believe I have other pictures in the packet. Make sure I have the right property. Yes.
Yeah, but okay, all this time was them chasing it as an apartment. Okay, that's off the table. Now they're gonna convert the building to be what it's zoned for. And to Rob's point,
They had that opportunity to go for that before, and they decided not to go for that. The hearing officer, if you read through all the documentation, the hearing officer gave him that opportunity to do that. We had timelines set for when they needed to have plans in to turn it into a commercial property. They chose not to at that time. They chose to
Yeah.
fight it legally.
Yeah, that's when they filed the lawsuit to keep it as an apartment.
but until they got the response from the hearing officer or whoever gave them that response, now they abandoned that effort and now they're refocused.
Well, after we got the adverse ruling from the Court of Appeals, and that's when we accepted the reality that it can't be, we're not going to be successful with the grandfather clause argument and under the zoning issue. Obviously, it much more economical to try to save it as it's always been used as an apartment building. When that effort was unsuccessful, that's when we were looking again to try to refurbish the building as something that would fit the current zoning. And unfortunately, due to problems of getting contractors out there and getting COVID issues, and then on top of that, it's my understanding some people did go to the township and try to get at least some preliminary informal information and some headway as to how to proceed, all of which were unfortunately kind of met with, you're wasting your money and it's a lost cause, the type of statements that Mr. Nuno presented. And that's why we're here today, to see what can be done to try to, one last effort to try to salvage the property. And answering Mr. Kramer's question, what's to happen in the next 90 days? I mean, I would defer to the experts and Mr. Nuno's retained and he's been in contact with, and they can present perhaps an answer to that question. What would we expect within the next 90 days to try to move this along and show that there's some progress where this property, after a sizable financial investment, can still be salvaged and have some worth, other than with a building being torn down and they have a vacant lot that may be of little value to anybody at that point.
We're planning to present plans, and we're covering the windows, and we're planning to brick the building from outside to make it, and maybe put a nice facade in the front to make it presentable, like with the new brick styles, and make it like a commercial, 1 or 2 commercial stores. And
What about the parking lot, Mr. Nuno? You know you don't have a parking lot, so you're gonna have to create one. You're gonna have to do drainage, proper drainage, because
we understand that, Your Honor.
that's a big figure, a very big figure, to put a parking lot in with the proper drainage that they want.
That's why.
I mean, you can rebuild anything, but do you have the money and are you gonna do it? Or are you just gonna buy time for 90 days, submit plans, get the review back from the township saying, you have to do this, no, this doesn't work, and then just get frustrated in the process?
I've been talking to the engineers for the last 30 days, and we
You
understand.
haven't talked to us at all. That's why you're here. That's exactly why you're here, because you haven't talked to us at all. We don't know your plans because you've never mentioned it.
Mr. Supervisor, may I ask questions?
Please, Mike.
Okay. sometimes the informal nature of these public hearings make it so that there's a lot of back and forth, and sometimes I have a lot of questions, I forget them. So I would like to understand the time frame. Mr. Kramer, can you tell me when the first dangerous building hearing was conducted on this property? You can say year if you would like, if that makes it.
I think it was 2018. I have a
can
letter.
answer
from
that.
the-
I can answer that question. It was
April 2018.
September of 2018. I'm sorry, April of
No, we had a meeting
2018.
in April of 2018.
And requested to be resolved by September and October respectively.
The dangerous hearing, or okay, so the meetings on the property were in April. When was this, and Mr. Harrington, can you tell me when the appeals, the last appeals was, what the date of that was?
In the
On
Court of
zoning
Appeals,
issue? Yeah,
the litigation was initiated in 2018. And the final ruling from the Court of Appeals, I don't have it in front of me, but it was sometime, I believe, and maybe Kristen has it, is it July or August of this year is when the ruling came out from the Court of Appeals.
I believe it was August because the deadline to file an appeal with the Supreme Court was October 8th.
Right.
So
So,
once that date passed, all the judicial remedies were exhausted.
it would have been 42 days before that, I think. So that would have been middle of August then approximately. Or middle to late August. So that's, and then since, that decision was made, I know Mr. Nunes has his personal issues with the father. His elderly father's been very sick, and that's been taking him out of the office. But despite that fact, he's, and when the decision was made not to file an application for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court or file a motion of reconsideration with the Michigan Court of Appeals, that's when all efforts were kind of transferred to saying, what can we do to try to save this building? As Mr. Nunu mentioned, in the last approximately 30 days, he's met with these engineers, try to come up with a formulated game plan as to what could be realistic. In the interim, of course, we received the notice October 16th of this hearing tonight. And that's when we're trying to formulate, and despite the problems of not meeting in person and despite the problems of Mr. Nuno's father is still, I don't understand, hospitalized and not doing well. Despite the time constraints he's been faced with, that we're trying to formulate what can be done. And I know Mr. Nuno has mentioned in the next 90 days to try to come up with something. And as Mr. Kramer has mentioned, if it's going to take issues with the parking, issues with the drainage, if he's willing to invest the money to do that, I mean, that's his call to make. And then be able to make the financial decision as to what to go forward with this particular issue. What's it's going to take the cost to fix that, I'm not sure. But at the same time, it's all kind of speculative at this point to say it's going to need new drainage or things of that nature. There could be ways around it. There could be ways to solve it, but we're not going to know that until there's actually plans that are presented and a review is made by the appropriate authorities within this township.
right. No, I appreciate that. And I think that to some degree, the status of the building and the zoning issue are a little bit are a little separate, at least as the way I view it. I mean, because we as trustees we come to these meetings periodically because the building official has warned us that a building is not safe, but it's still standing in the township. And so we have a decision to make, which is, decide if we are going to agree with the recommendation, to move forward, or if we are going to allow additional time for the owner to bring the building into compliance. The problem is typically when it gets to us, it's a lot of time has lapsed. There's communication issues between the building department and the property owner. There's disputes over the findings of the building official, and disputes that I would assume could be, settled here if there were evidence or in a court of law. I don't know that, but I do know Mr. Kramer. I do know that he understands building quite well. When he brings facts before this body that there's asbestos, that there's issues with the property, and then when I hear the appellate or the person appealing the decision disputing those individual issues, and this is not the first time this has happened. You know, I can get involved. I can jump in. I can watch that dance happen for. Sometimes it happens for 45 minutes at these hearings, and at the end of the day, we've given property owners time, and they, in those instances, never complied eventually, and so we had to vote to have another hearing and call them back in front of us, and then vote to demolish. And that's a frustrating process for us. It's a very frustrating process because that all the meantime, there's a building in the township that has been deemed unsafe. And so it does bother me a little bit that in 2018, there was discussions about the building being dangerous. And then through litigation, the debate over whether or not it would be zoned, whether it would be zoned residential or whether it would be zoned commercial. There were 2 years spent down that track while this building, which had been deemed dangerous, was sat there. And it looks like no permits were ever pulled. Now, Mr. Kramer could tell me it's not worth pulling permits on my house, but I can still pull those permits and get that work done if I have the intent of salvaging at least the inside of the building, handling the outlet issues, handling the asbestos issues, working on the drainage, keeping the property clean while I'm got the township looking at my property. I feel like that's what I would do were I somebody who intended on rezoning my property and having it ready for use. But the issue of the dangerous building was never addressed, even while the litigation was going on, the litigation around a zoning issue. So that's what concerns me throughout this entire process. But I do appreciate that 2020 has been a bear of a year. This has been an awful year, and I've been through a lot myself. And so I understand, a lot of my plans have been interrupted as well. And so I'm of two minds on that. And I would love to hear more of what the board has to say. But my initial concern is that Mr. Kramer said in 2018, the building's dangerous. And, the choice was made to go into the courts as opposed to follow the administrative process to make the building safe. And the stick was always he could come before us and we could demolish the building. And it looks like that was never really factored in. And obviously we're not going to demolish the building while it's in litigation. So that's a gamble, but the gamble failed. It didn't win. So here we are.
Recognizing the gamble, as you put it, essentially was unsuccessful from the property owner's perspective. But I mean, there were efforts made to seek permits over the last 2 to 3 years, and unfortunately, at least from what I'm advised, my client, those efforts were all hit roadblocks with the township because they were sought for purposes of trying to fix the building and maintain at that point the apartment. And of course, the zoning was not appropriate for the apartment, and so the building permits were denied. And not to make light of the fact that it's been 2 years since the building was last occupied, 3 years, excuse me. But at the same time, we have 36 months time frame approximately. We're asking for another 3 months. There hasn't been any real incidents with the building. There have been people that, trespassers that perhaps have dumped things on the back lot there. There's a couch or something like that. But at the same time, it's my understanding the building itself is still standing. The roof isn't leaking. Our clients, aren't allowed to go in there and actually conduct any repairs or do anything besides looking at it from the outside. But I think that, given the current status where we are, frankly, this is a last ditch effort to try to salvage the property and salvage the building on the property, I should say. And that's why we're asking for just this one extra extension to try to make something a go of it and make it within now that the fact we couldn't be successful, with the grandfather clause issue with the zoning to go forward with, try to make something of a go with it with the current zoning. And to be frank, my laptop's ready to die, so I'm gonna go plug it in right now, so I apologize.
Is there any other comments, questions, statements? Go ahead, Mr. Nuno.
Just I want to tell the board that on the minute Mr. Kramer called me, I was the second morning in his office, and I went to the city and I got my contractor, and we tried to pull a permit, and we went complied with everything they told me, and I was unsuccessful in every way, shape, or manner. I exhausted everything. I went to the planning board, I went to the zoning board, I went to talk to everybody in the city. They know me by name, by looking at my face. And believe me, it's just, I get one thing, don't spend money. Even Mr. Kramer himself told me, don't spend money. It's not worth it. We're going to demolish it. And the demolish order, dangerous building, came first. And after that, I got the inspections. The inspection doesn't say it's dangerous building. We went to pull permits, they will not give us a permit.
Oh, understood. And I don't want to go over the same ground twice here today.
I'm telling you, I tried with every remedy to fix it and do whatever it is. Just
No, your point's well taken. Are there any other questions or comments or statements from the other trustees at this point? Is there any questions for, go ahead, Anne Marie, please.
Thank you. I guess I'm still trying to understand the timeline about the 90 days. So do you still need, what did you say you needed to do in that 90 days? I still didn't hear that.
I want to draw plans according to the C2, and we're going to make it a commercial building. He want to put plan. We talked about it, put a new facade, break the building, clean it up, gut out the whole building, have it like 1 or 2 units, depending on the parking, because as Mr. Kramer just mentioned and bring it to my attention. So we have to figure the parking and what's allowed there, and we'll move from there. You know, and this way I can save the building and eventually, hopefully sell it and save my investment or preserve my investment.
But you're
So
still
Robert,
going to
based
have
on
to
what
go
he
through.
just said,
Anne Marie?
yes,
I'm sorry.
sorry. So Rob, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So based on what he just said, what would he need to do? You were about to say?
Yeah, he
What
still has to
permits?
go most likely through a site plan approval because we're talking about making it into 2 units. So it's not going to be the same use. It's a lot of work. And when you convert an old building, you have to build it under today's code. You can use the existing building code, but you still need to meet the energy code, which that building does not. There's a lot of issues there with the prior construction. So they basically have to gut the whole thing. And the only thing that would be remaining would be a roof and 4 walls. And that's about it, just the structure. And then at that point, we could go in and see what the roof looks like. If it's rotted, you might have to replace all the roof members. And it's there, you know, people, you can slam me all you want for telling me if I think that it needs to be demolished, but that's just my opinion. Like I say, you can rebuild anything. You can take that right down to the slab on grade and rebuild an entire new structure. How much money are you willing to invest? At the end of the day, it has to meet the code, plus all the site improvements. There's nowhere to park for a business there right now. He's going to have to create a lot.
But you're saying, and so what you're saying also is that all that cannot be done within 90 days.
Oh, he has so much planning to go through. First, he has to get with planning department to get something approved through the planning division. Then from planning division, it goes to engineering and building for a review of what's inside the building. So there's a lot of review that has to be taken into consideration there. And 90 days is not, then what he's asking for 90 days, but say he gets a planning approval in 90 days, then how long is it going to take him to get in working drawings? How long is it going to take for the construction? Where are we going to, this could be years, but someone has to decide if they're willing to take on this project and follow it all the way through. and give him the time necessary to do it, but not a lot can get accomplished in 90 days. He won't be laying brick in 90 days.
Well, 90 days will be in the middle of the winter, of course, but I think within that time frame, we have a really good idea as to how realistic it is. The building can be salvaged and something can be done well along in terms of presenting plans and to the getting site plan approval and doing all the other necessary steps to go forward with the trying to salvage the building. And in 90 days, if it looks like it's a lost cause, then so be it. But I mean, obviously, Mr. Nuno wouldn't be this vigilant about trying to go through all these efforts, go through litigation, and going through all this time and effort trying to save the building unless he wasn't truly interested in doing that. I mean, it looks like, I mean, I'm not sure how many of these you have every year, but I would imagine that you probably don't have somebody who's probably as fighting as hard as Mr. Nuno is to try to save his building. That's why I think when he says he's going to be doing it, I think having known him for a number of years, that he would most likely will follow through with his word and try to accomplish this. And that's why I said, you know, for the 90 days, we're going to be in a much better situation, or a much better idea as to what the situation is like and what he can and cannot accomplish.
Jay, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to just bring to kind of echo something that Clerk Segrist said in regards to the administrative process. And yeah, it appears that it started in 2018, but just to make sure that we're looking at the records that actually go back to 2014, when there were discussions and violations and the work actually started to be, and inspections were actually done on the property. And that's indicated in the paperwork that was received too. So this goes back longer than 2 years. And then in regards to the site plan, yes, if there were 90 days were given, the process is going to go through the same process that you would see a new business that would come in and purchase this and want to redo the property. So you're looking at a whole new site plan that would go through the planning commission. Well, first of all, it would go through DRC, be reviewed by the planning department, be reviewed by the planning commission, and then come to the board for a preliminary site plan or a permanent, depending on what they were looking at doing. So this process is barely going to get kicked off the ground within 90 days. So the expectation would be, if the 90 days was granted, that this is going to be a lengthy process to get this back to where it's something that the township would want presented there. And I just want to touch on the drainage. I know that's been thrown out there a few times. I don't think anybody understands the cost to deal with drainage, and you would have to, because of the age of that particular site, the county would be involved in on that. So you're adding to the process there as well. So the 90 days, you know, I guess the vigilancy of addressing the issue should have started quite a few years ago, as opposed to right now. And this is me coming in to the picture, you know, just a year and a half ago. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Is there any other trustee comments at this point or questions? All right, I'm going to summarize go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, the first question I have is the building now secure, Mr. Kramer? And is it, and do we have any requirements that if the owner is going to try and work on improving or fixing the issues with the building, that they put a fence around it while it's still a dangerous building?
Well, everybody keeps throwing the word dangerous building around. Dangerous building under the law, there's 12 items of any which one can make it classified as a dangerous building. Is the building going to fall down? No. Is the building locked up? We have to go by once every couple of weeks and check to make sure the doors aren't kicked in and the vagrants in the building. Our ordinance division does that. That's how we find out when there's been somebody dumping garbage in the back. Ordinance will find out. It's an attractive nuisance. The building has been sitting there for years. But as far as secured, the door, if it does get kicked in, I'm sure the owner of the party store has Mr. Nunu's number, and they call him in relative quick nature. They they have come back and usually taken care of the issue, although the debris takes a little bit longer to get cleaned up. But if you look at the pictures at the front of my document that I sent you, it shows the huge lake that's in front of the building. That's part of the drainage issue.
Yeah, I only see one picture of the building. I don't know if I'm missing the other ones where there's some windows. I can't tell what shape they're in.
You don't even see the building in some of those. All you see is a big pond.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the building itself though.
Oh,
Like, is it secure?
it's secure. There, yeah, the windows and doors are secured and locked, and when someone breaks in, they come back and put a new lock or screw them shut or make sure that nobody gets in them. But we have to check that every couple of weeks.
Yeah, and while the hearing was a little over 2 years ago, I did see some letters showing caught from years before that. You know, I'm disappointed that if you're going to take the chance of keeping it as apartments and going to court for it, that you didn't have a plan B all ready to go right when that happened. And yeah, I agree with the director and Mr. Kramer that this will take a really long time to get out from being a dangerous building. And I think that you still own the property, so you can still sell it to the developer. But in my personal opinion, this building needs to go. And there's too much, it's been too long for us living with this in our environment. The amount of cost it is for our public safety to ensure that no one's in there, and our municipal department, that no one's in danger in there over the last 2, 3, even 4 or 5 years. That's real cost to our community. And I think you've had the opportunity to make changes. You've known about this for a long time. And that's just where I'm leaning right now.
Just
No, Mr. Noonan, we're all set. I think we've heard all the discussion at this point. Is there any other board comments or questions at this point? I think we're ready to vote on the motion.
So I have a question for you, Mr. Supervisor. We have three potential motions. It looks like that have been drafted for us. The first one would be to have it demolished within 60 days. The second one is 21 days on the termination of the structure has been set. And then it looks like the third option is pretty open-ended, whatever we decide, whatever we think is appropriate in these circumstances. My question would be, is if we make the motion, because I don't have a good feel for like kind of the direction that the board wants to go in. And then also, if there's a 90-day extension, are we essentially giving them 90 days to bring the building into compliance, or are we giving them 90 days to hear if they want to bring the building into compliance? Because it seems like the second one is what's being discussed.
The next practical steps is Mr. Noonan is going to have to do a study, determine what the options are, create a plan, submit the plan, and go through all the process. It's going to take months and months and months, guys. No, sir. We're all, in terms of comment, we're all set at this point. We are getting ready to vote.
I just want to mention one thing, that we could divide it into two issues. First of all, get rid of all the apartment issues, so we don't have any apartment issues. We bring the building into compliance with Michigan Rehab Code, and then at the same time, so basically it's going to be a demo permit, and then at the same time is just fixing what's needed to be fixed to bring it into compliance with Michigan Rehab Code. The other one is going to go for a planning and site plan approval. So it's going to be hand to hand. It's not just one. Applying for a permit for the demo for the inside at the same time, when we do that, we can fix the issue that you have with the parking lot. We can fix it temporarily just to get rid of that water over there. And then at the same time, we're applying for the planning and we're applying for the site plan approval.
Yeah, no, there's no temporary with that driveway. Once you get Wayne County involved, guys, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars to mitigate the drainage on that property. That's a guesstimate on my part, and I'm not an engineer. No, that's Mr. Ray. I just,
I totally understand. I just designed a property similar to that, and it cost them about $110,000 to do the underground storage.
yeah,
So I'm aware of that. But what I'm trying to say is just to fix a temporary fix, like just backfill it with the gravel and then a layer of asphalt on top of it, just a temporary, while we are working with the site plan approval and the planning. It's not, this is not permanent. This is just a temporary to take us like through these 6 months or till the next summer to start working, which is the work that is going to be in compliance with the city requirement of landscaping, parking requirements, underground storage, and then at the same time beautifying the building and make it representative.
You can't get a temporary parking lot permit. Wayne County won't approve it.
Well,
Because where's the water gonna go? Water's gonna go somewhere that Wayne County does not want it to go. That's why they will not approve it.
it's
You have to touch that parking lot, you're gonna have to have a plan and an approval from Wayne County to do anything before you do anything. They will not approve the perfume on the pig approach to this. They want something done. They won't approve it. I've been through this with many projects already. Wayne County, very tough to deal with because they want things done right the first time. They're not willing to go halfway on something and wait and see if someone's gonna try something else. They want it done the first time.
we are applying for the planning. We are applying for site plan approval, which is, my understanding that site plan approval required Wayne County approval. So we're gonna get Wayne County and we're gonna get MDOT approval for the for any right of way and for the storm management. So this is totally understandable. So what I'm trying to say, we make the building, we get it out of the dangerous list, or we just make it go back to in compliance with Michigan Rehab Code just for the time being, by getting all the walls, getting all the plumbing, getting all the electrical, any wiring, anything like that, make it safe at this time, okay, within the 90 days, okay? Meanwhile, that we're gonna apply for site plan approval for the C2. And this will include, within that, it will be Wayne County approval and MDOT. I know you're shaking your head, Mr. Kramer, I understand. It's a lengthy process, it's not gonna happen within the 90 days, but it could happen during the winter.
I'm looking in my deck, and Michael, I don't see the 3 separate motion options in my deck, which is odd.
In the RBA,
Yeah, it may be a part of the second piece. Let me go back out.
Joe emailed me separately. I had made the statement that I needed the RBAs to make the motions, and
I believe they were emailed out this afternoon.
Okay.
Around 3 o'clock.
oh, well, that's perfect. Well, either way, I have them.
Right,
So,
these are immediate destruction, so many days destruction, or we let them buy some time to get their act together, do their studies and submit some plans. Yes,
Yes, the minimum, well, the default position on demo is to give the property owner 60 days. That's provided for in state law. And then if they don't do it within the 60 days, the township can do it. If it was determined that the property would cause an immediate potential safety hazard, then you could use the 21 day. But I think Mr. Kramer said that's not really an issue at this point.
not an immediate danger, no. That's a fact, which means. it's-
Again, the board could give him some deadline to work towards compliance if that was their choice.
I think Stephen's kind of telegraphed where he's headed. Is there anybody like to make a motion here for us? Summer, Diane, Michael,
I mean, I'll make a motion. I just have no idea where a majority of the board sits on this issue.
find that out. after
So
the
my
motion.
thoughts are 60 days, what the state law requires or permits, 60 days.
60 days for demolition.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, wow, okay. So I will make, you want me to make the formal motion? and
Make the formal motion
like-
based on summary
Sounds like,
and John's direction.
okay. Mr. Supervisor, I move to confirm the finding of the dangerous building hearing officer that 43415 Michigan Avenue is a dangerous building as defined in township ordinance, that the building shall be demolished within 60 days of November 17, 2020. If demolition is not undertaken by the property owner within this time period, the township is hereby authorized to set forth by law to undertake demolition and bill the property owner the cost of doing so.
I second that move.
Roll call vote on the motion, please. Clerk Segris.
Anthony,
Yes.
Foster,
Aye.
Graham Hudek,
Aye.
Segrist, aye. Slavens. I see you're on mute. I read your lips, but
Head up and down, yes.
all right, you're indicating yes.
Aye, sorry.
That's all right. Snyderman
Aye.
and Williams.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda we have in front of us is 888 Lots Road Dangerous Building Hearing. Again, a revisit and review of that. Do we have representatives of the Lots Road properties on the line with us?
Yes, I see Dave Nycanon, who is the attorney for the property owner. So if he could be promoted, and then maybe he can identify if any of his clients are also present to be promoted.
Mr. Nycanon has been promoted to a panelist.
And Mr. Nycanon, you got yourself muted. We're going to give you an opportunity to speak shortly. Mr. Nycanon, do you have anybody who you're representing? Are they with you today?
I believe Miss Wyatt should be on the call.
Okay.
I see a Jean. Would that be her?
That would be her, yes.
Okay.
All right, Michael, if we could also promote Ms. Wyatt.
Promoted.
Okay, now this is a little fresher for, I think, the trustees. We've recently gone through this. I don't know how many months ago. That was the last conversation. These are the Lots Road pieces. Nephew was living in one of them. I don't know if everybody remembers the story, but and then recently, I guess it was a car hit one of the buildings there, and that has not been repaired yet. So go ahead, Jake, please.
Yeah, I think the refresher is good, but the refresher that the board had addressed previously was for 870 Lots Road. These are new show cause hearings for the other two properties that were given future deadlines by the dangerous buildings hearing officer. So we're bringing those back before you tonight because obviously with COVID, things have slowed down and these did not get brought before you. So this is in regards to 880 and 890. And I don't know if they want to be handled separately or together. I guess, Kristen, I'll turn to you. For
I would vote we put them together. Is 870 still standing though, is it not?
It is, and I'll let Kristen give an update as to where we stand on that.
Please.
Yeah, so shortly after the board ordered the demo of 870 back in February, Mr. Nycanon's clients filed a lawsuit and obtained a stay to prohibit the township from demolishing 870. The case has kind of languished since then. If you check the dockets online, it says that it's actually closed. But that's probably just an administrative thing. So the case, really nothing's been happening since I think we were in court in February or March. But since then, the other two buildings have passed their deadlines that were agreed to by Mrs. Wyatt for 880 and 890. The property's been sitting vacant.
I'm here, but I don't see my photo.
And then, as I think Jade indicated, one of the buildings, I think it's 890, was actually hit by a car, suffered some pretty significant damage to the building. And it's my understanding it hasn't even been boarded up at this time. So the staff was interested in moving these along because of how long they've been sitting in, deteriorating in this condition. So we were asked to bring this forward to the board on a show cause, which was scheduled last month for tonight.
Mr. Nycanon, would you like to make opening statements on behalf of your client, or perhaps your clients? Gene, we can see you now and you're muted again. So Mr. Nycanon, would you like to make opening comments, remarks?
Sure. Thank you, Supervisor Williams. As I indicated to Ms. Kolb in my letter to her of September 22nd of this year, 870 lots is involved in litigation. The court has entered a stay. Obviously, we understand that the court's resolution of 870 will likely apply to all three parcels. I asked that the township hold off on this because, frankly, the more amicable resolution of this matter will be to have the court make a determination on the 870 lots matter, and then we'll be able to resolve all three matters. I just want to point out a couple of items of interest. There is another individual who's on the line. He is not a property owner or an owner, but although Ms. Wyatt stands ready, willing, and able to do the repairs, if the township, if the county will fix the flooding issue, which the townships, and I agree, I understand that we have a difference of opinion on what Mr. Creamer now says he intended versus what he said in his punch list, but the number one item on his punch list, just to refresh your recollection, was that no renovation can happen until the drainage issues are repaired. I understand he now states that what he meant by that was that we had to do regrading. That is not what, in our view, what the punch list says. And we have held off on doing those repairs because, frankly, there are still drainage issues on the property that, in our position, were caused by the county's resurfacing of Lots Road. And the county failed to put in a drain that was shown on the plans. And that failure to put in the drain has caused a significant change in the drainage on our parcel, which has caused the flooding. If and when we are able to resolve that with the county, Ms. Wyatt stands ready, willing, and able to do the repairs. We also have with us an individual by the name of Bill Bain, who is the principal of an entity called Michigan Rental Homes, who has, we are basically in the process of negotiating a sale of the property. Unfortunately, that sale is contingent upon the county or the township allowing the purchaser to do the renovations that it now claims that even if we did those renovations now, it would have the right to demolish the property. So obviously no one is going to invest money in repairs when the township says that it has the right to demolish the property at any time. And when it comes to doing the repairs, I just want to point out that Ms. Wyatt sent me a breakdown of the contractors that she has contacted starting in January of this year. And Ms. Wyatt has contacted 12 different legitimate, upstanding contractors, a total of 92 times over this time period. And because of the COVID pandemic, she has received a total of one quote, and that was received in October. None of the other contractors were even willing to provide quotes. She received responses like, A, call us back in 6 to 8 weeks. We're not doing anything because of COVID. B, we're not doing work in Canton Township because Canton Township has either a very difficult inspection process or they have a significant delay in issuing permits. I'm just telling you what contractors have told us. I'm not saying whether those are accurate or not. So I don't want anyone to get offended by those statements. I'm just reporting what was reported to us by the contractors. Or C, we're not doing any work right now, period, because of COVID. So in 92 contacts that Ms. Wyatt has records of, we received a total of one quote in October. Again, if the township, if the county would repair the drainage issue, which is a very simple repair in our view, which would cost the county no more than we believe $20,000 to $30,000, this property's drainage would be repaired, and Ms. Wyatt and or the purchaser would be willing to make the renovations necessary to bring the property back up to code. That's where we're at. And I guess the last thing I'd say is, you know, I don't like getting involved in litigation with municipalities. But I indicated last time, Jeannie, if you can mute yourself, we're getting reverb here.
Okay.
Thanks. I don't like getting involved in litigation with municipalities, but I indicated last time that if the township was going to move forward with demolition, that to protect my client's interest, I'd have to move forward with litigation. I think that was met with some skepticism, but that's what we did, and that's what we will have to do in this case if we are not able to protect Ms. Wyatt's property interests. You know, Mr. Kramer prepared a punch list of items, and he said at the hearing last time that if any one of those items was not satisfied, he satisfied the dangerous buildings ordinance. And some of those items included the property had a 4-inch address number instead of a 6-inch address number. So we would like to resolve this amicably. These properties are not blights upon the community. They are safe, they are secure, other than 890, which was hit by a car, which we will work to secure, but that's where we stand. And Jeannie, I don't know if, I guess I'd open it to see if Ms. Wyatt has anything she would like to add at this time.
Go ahead, Ms. Wyatt.
Okay, yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have any sound, so I'm not sure what was discussed. I've got it on my cell phone, but obviously we're getting an echo. But we have finally gotten a quote on doing number 1. The accident was on September 2nd. I was out there the morning of September 3rd. The insurance company is Progressive. I had to wait about 10 days to get the police report because it was not finished. When I got it, I called, and Progressive is not doing any inspections because of COVID. And so it was my responsibility to get quotes. I called about 18 different companies and only 2 would come out. Canton Construction came out, but in fact then never gave me a quote. And subsequent follow-up calls, finally I was just told that they weren't taking work in Canton because of the delays in permits and inspections due to the layoffs that the township had done. I did get a quote yesterday, which I forwarded on to Progressive, to the claims adjuster. The claims adjuster, I followed up with him this morning, and he told me that because the claim was in excess of $75,000, that he has to move it to another claims adjuster. But he was doing that today as we speak, and he said he would get back with me within the next 24 hours with that adjuster's name and phone number. So we're moving ahead on that as quickly as possible. And since I'm not sure what David has discussed with you, I have contacted 14 different companies starting back at the end of last year to go in and start. And I either had companies that told me they weren't taking any work for 4 to 6 weeks. And then following up with those companies, they finally, most of them told me that they weren't taking any more work at the present time because of COVID. We've maintained the properties. We've been cutting the lawns. We had a problem at the beginning of the year, once again, with paying landscaping companies to do the cutting, and they never did it. And so I have been doing it myself every 2 weeks to make sure that it got done properly. The building is secure. There was a new door put on number 7 to make sure that no one could jimmy the door open. And so other than that, I don't have anything else to say.
Pat, you're muted.
Any additional board comments, questions?
Do we want to hear from Rob?
Yeah, go ahead, Rob. Because I don't think much has changed since our last meeting at all.
No,
There was a different building, so.
yeah, I have a couple questions. Is this being grouped with 870 lots or is it not?
No, 870 is, we can't, is under the jurisdiction of the court. Tonight, we're only talking about 880 and 890.
Okay, well, after that's cleared up, where are they with the Wayne County issue of flooding?
Like I said, the lawsuit has been stayed by the court. So, I mean, someone's got to kick the pants of the court to get them to reconsider this case, but it's not, nothing's happening at all.
Okay, because we have not received any plans. So the first thing of any project is to provide plans for what you're going to do. So I know she says she's talked to all these contractors. I kind of question the quality of the contractors she's talking to. We're doing a lot of work and we're issuing permits in timely manners. We never shut down through COVID the whole time. I can attest to that because I never got any time off through the whole thing. We've been issuing permits left and right. So usually people call me. I have received a lot of calls on the property, and a couple of people had asked some questions and said they would not deal with it because once I showed some pictures to some of them of especially the apartment they were concerned with, the shape of the floors. There's a lot of work that has to be structurally done in those apartments. And a lot of them they said it was too much work for them. But if they have somebody that's willing to come in and take care of it, he could have called us and said, here's my plans, here's what I want to do. But I've received nothing from anybody who wants to take the project over and complete it. So I've heard nothing, although they claim that they have somebody that's willing to do it. I would have thought that he would have contacted us and said, here's what I want to do. How can you help me get this done? Like I say, I've heard nothing. The buildings are an attractive nuisance. They're just sitting there. I don't know the plans for the restoration where the car hit the building. Those have to come into us, and I don't even know where the guy would start and where he would finish at this point because he hit a building that's not structurally sound and not livable. So what are they going to repair? So I'm kind of waiting to see that. To me, the properties are, the land is worth a lot, and they could put a nice parcel together to do some work there, but buildings have issues. If they're really concerned with repairing them, they could have put some pits into the crawl spaces and then gone ahead and do all the structural repairs and have that done by now. At least send some plans. I haven't even seen any plans come in. So it's just sitting there. They're using COVID as an excuse. Obviously, you know, I don't use COVID as an excuse. Like I say, our department has continued to work right through it. A lot of contractors don't want to deal with it when they see what a mess it is, because there's a lot of work there and there's a lot of plans. So you will need a pretty big contractor to take on this project, somebody that's used to providing a proper set of plans and following through with all the work that needs to be done. There's just a lot of work that needs to be done, but it can be done. Anything can be done, as we talked about in the last hearing. It's how bad somebody wants to do it. So.
Just to add to what Rob's saying, is we've got, this is for Dave's purposes, there's record number of permits being pulled in Canton Township. We are operating at levels that go back to 2007. All my buddies who are contractors who I've called to do stuff around the house, they said, sure, Pat, in May. Everybody's at home, everybody has cash, they're doing home projects and improvements. So all the quality guys are booked into next spring. So we are extremely busy here at Canton Township, authorizing, I don't know how many 100 permits a week, 300 a week. So they're coming through and people are busy and people are out in the community doing a lot of work. If there's one segment in the economy in Canton Township today that's healthy, it is the contractors. They are just going gangbusters right now. They're busy and they're doing well. So
Pat, can I just point out for the board, though, that this whole process started 8 months before anybody had even heard of COVID.
Right. Agreed. Also,
and these properties hadn't been maintained for clearly decades, and they were allowed to get into the condition where some of them are missing floors, there's mold in the properties. How come now that the township is looking to take some enforcement action with respect to its codes, all of a sudden the property owner is interested in pursuing to do this? These properties have been ignored for so long. And now because they, you know, are facing the possibility of them getting knocked down, now all of a sudden they want to show up and do the work and submit plans and get more time.
I totally agree with you, Kristen, and that's why you want to know who's driving this one, guys, who put this together is myself, because I wanted to have all three of the buildings in the same spot at the same time when the judge makes the ruling, which I strongly will be in our favor. Well, I believe that. Then we can wrap all three up at one shot. That's the plan. So that's why we're doing the other two properties today. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, so Mr. Supervisor, in that vein, I remember vividly 870. I remember this debate, the discussion we had, almost verbatim. The board voted to agree with the assessment of the building official, and so I see no reason to not do so with the two properties before us today. It's abundantly clear that this will continue on in litigation. And so it feels like this might just be a bit of a formality. And so an extended kind of debate on the merits of each and every one of these things might not be the best use of everybody's time on here. But that said, this is a very important thing and we're debating this, we're discussing this, but it's clear on the last property that it was dangerous. The board just agreed, we voted, and they, sued, and I am not afraid of a lawsuit. So that's kind of my position. Okay, like let's vote it. Let's combine this with the other lawsuits and then see if the county or if the Third Circuit finds it compelling, the arguments of Mr. Nycannon.
Is there any additional board comments, questions, concerns? Any other comments, questions? Stephen?
I was just going to say that I agree with the clerk. I can't remember, did we do a 60-day on 870? What was it that we did, a 60-day? Okay. Yeah, I expect them to do the same thing in terms of the county court, but yeah, I don't see why we need to do anything differently on these than we did on 870.
Any other comments, questions, statements to be made? Trustees?
For the purposes of the motion, are we combining both properties into this hearing, or are we going to go through and?
I see the three properties are really the two that we're discussing today as one property.
Is it
two properties I see as one? There's one more.
I would just specify the two separate addresses, just so.
In the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to do it as a single motion.
I believe it's one parcel.
All right, and Dave, go ahead. You'd like to make a comment?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I make the record complete. Although I mentioned it in my letter to Ms. Cole on September 22nd, I just want to make sure that my letter of November 26, 2019 is incorporated into this record, because that is the basis on which we're relying it on in this hearing, number one. And number two, Supervisor Williams, I made it very clear, and I hope I made it very clear, that I'm not reporting to you what I believe to be factual about what contractors have told us. I'm merely reporting what certain individual contractors have reported to Ms. Wyatt. I'm not saying it for the truth of that matter. I'm just telling you what she has been told by those contractors. That's all.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Anne Marie, yes, no, question, comment? No, okay. I think we're in a position to call for a motion. Is there someone that would like to make a motion?
Mr. Supervisor, I move to confirm the finding of the dangerous building hearing officer that both 880 Lots Road and 890 Lots Road are dangerous buildings as defined in township ordinance, and that both the buildings shall be demolished within 60 days of November 17th, 2020. The demolition is not undertaken by the property owner within this time period. The township properties owners within this township, within this period, the township is hereby authorized as set forth by law to undertake demolition and bill the property owners the cost of doing so.
Second,
I think John Anthony got in there just ahead of Diane, so.
I withdraw. Diane, you,
That's your last-
ladies before gentlemen.
All right. So do you have a seconder there, Michael, identified?
Got a second?
Okay, beautiful. Roll call, vote on the motion.
Anthony,
Yes,
Foster,
Aye.
Graham Hudek,
Aye.
Seagrist, aye. Slavens,
Aye.
Aye.
and Williams.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. That, I believe, concludes our official business for this evening. We double check my agenda here. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Can you look at the chat, participants, to see if there's any public comment at this time?
See nobody with a raised hand.
Also, if you're calling in on a cell phone and you hit *9, that would also be the equivalent of raising the hand on the board. Is there any *9s, Michael?
See nothing.
Okay, seeing no public comment at this time, I call for a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Support. Second.
Roll call in favor or against the motion, please.
Anthony,
Yes.
Foster,
Aye.
Graham Hudek,
Aye.
Seagrist, aye. Slavens,
Aye.
Snyderman,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye. That concludes our meeting this evening. Everybody, please be safe, be well.